It's a great pleasure to be joining you today, to be back with you since I first joined you as Minister for Life Science 4 or 5 years ago, to signal my support for the important work that you're doing. Then I was Minister for Life Science, highlighting that for all the pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical interventions and technologies that the UK is world famous for, and boy have we shown how valuable that is now in saving the world from a prolonged pandemic, we also have to tackle those really practical day-to-day pressures on the NHS that are seeing health expenditure rise and rise and rise. In my 10 years in Parliament, we're now spending just over 40% of total national income on the NHS. That's up from 30%. If we don't tackle the chronic disease burden that is crippling so many people, literally, giving far too many people experience of pain, reducing productivity, and easing pressure on the NHS, then we are in danger of denying patients access to fulfilling and healthy lives, but also to the novel treatments and medicines that they need and expect. So the challenge that you are tackling, I want to suggest, goes right to the heart of both our healthcare economy challenge of how do we get better health for every pound we spend? How do we shift left from a health service which is, over the years, has ended up putting more and more money into blue light emergency, expensive tertiary and hospital care or medicine, and the system spending too little on prevention in the community, keeping people out of hospital, not just to save money we can then reinvest in health and other healthcare services and healthier lifestyles, but also to help people live more productive, healthier and happier lives. And no sector is doing more for it than yours. You don't need me to tell you that 2 to 3 out of every 5 GP consultations are linked to back pain. It is the Cinderella disease syndrome that is driving huge loss of productivity across the economy and huge cost in the system. And that's why the work that you're doing, both the research but also the training and the education, the development of careers, is so important to the UK economy and healthcare system. And I say that as Minister at the Department of Business, Minister for the Office of Life Science, leading on the life science strategy and delivery. In the end, we have to make this pandemic a moment where we never again neglect population health to the extent that we historically have for decades. Learn the lessons, invest in population health and prevention. So I really just wanted to signal my very strong support for the work that you're doing, in particular in the skills and career side. The brilliant programs that you've set up in Teesside, in Preston, and the work that you're doing in Bournemouth and South Wales, Abingdon and London. This is really cutting edge stuff, developing those courses that develop the career paths for people to come into the profession and to highlight the opportunities in the profession. But also the work that you're doing on training chiropractors and developing those clinics, that integration of clinical and population-based training with patients out on the front line, and ultimately the ability to help the profession be able to help patients help themselves and to disseminate those insights that will allow us to reduce the huge cost and pain of back pain and those other neuromusculoskeletal disorders that are so costly in the true sense in our society. In the end, the pandemic, I think, has been a moment where, for the first time in my lifetime, I've seen businesses, individuals, families, companies, towns, governments all across the world recognise, finally, the value of health and the cost of disease. Here in the UK, the pandemic cost us about £1 trillion of debt, and we put on about 35,000 tonnes of fat as a population. And the Prime Minister's passionate about this because he's very nearly ended up in a respirator. It was quite close to very, very serious illness, has lost 3 stone, and as a former mayor, understands that we've got to take the pandemic as a moment where we seriously commit to a healthier model of growth, a healthier model of population health, and an NHS and healthcare system that is intervening earlier, preventing and incentivising people to stay healthy. So that's why in the work that I'm doing, delivering the life science strategy, we're moving the focus from the deep drug discovery science to the frontline diseases. We've set out 8 missions around respiratory disease, obesity, cardiovascular disease, those frontline chronic disease conditions that have both left people more susceptible to COVID than they needed to be and are holding back the productivity of populations around the country. If we get this right, it's an exciting agenda that will help individuals, families, but also drive up our economic productivity all around the country. So I salute you. I support what you're doing. It's a great pleasure to be able to join you. Thank you for your work, and I look forward in my role here doing everything I can to support your important work on the front line.